please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hi, good afternoon. You're watching Halftime Report. I'm Samira Abdi and with me is my colleague Nigel D'Souza. Hi, Nigel. We're celebrating Women's Day, so essentially the day is pink and whatnot. Any reason you're in black?
No, Samira, but actually I'm very happy on this Halftime Report show. I'll tell you why. Because all my favorites are part of the show. My favorite anchor, Sumera, my favorite director, Nandita, and in fact my favorite producer as well, Pavitra.
Wow.
So happy Women's Day to all of y'all. And in fact, you know, it's great every day you'll put up with me, and in fact you'll put up this show as well. So
truer words were never spoken. All right, but let's get started then. Well, it's actually turning out to be quite a good afternoon. So the market has climbed from the lows. We've just about retraced back to that 10,200 mark. So let's see, perhaps we'll get to the highs of the day, but for now about a 0.5% higher, so that bodes well. Even the mid-cap index, which at one point was severely in the red, and that also seems to be making a bit of a headway. So it's back in the green for now. So let's see if there is more to come from here.
Women's Day theme. In fact, we have Amisha Vora, the Joint Managing Director of Prabhudas Lilladher, who joins us to give us her analysis of what's going on in the markets. Hi, Amisha. Thanks so much for joining in. And first things first, here's wishing you a very happy Women's Day. I remember coming down to your office a few years ago, and you're quite encouraging. And I've been hearing your market views for the last few years. So thank you so much. But let's talk about the markets first, Amisha. Well, what have you been making of this current correction? What's the mood like? You've been speaking to plenty of clients, I'm sure. What's the mood like?
So first and foremost, let me also wish all the viewers happy International Women's Day. And thank you for wishing me and making this a big day for all of us, women. In the markets, I think, you know, it's so typical of the markets that when the markets are rising, we keep finding reasons as to why markets are rising and why it is justified. And when markets are falling, we keep finding reasons why the fall is justified. Sentiment, of course, is very anemic at the moment. My personal feeling is that while the markets are in a correction mode, and valuation was the key trigger, I think, which needed a correction and a consolidation phase, which was aggravated by the bond market cues and pains. But underlying, the economy is doing much better than it was doing before. We are sitting on the back of two good monsoons. We are also sitting on the back of a base which is created after two large painful reforms, painful for the economy to adjust in terms of demonetization and GST. So I think the much awaited growth and earnings momentum will finally come in. Of course, the valuations re-rating has no scope. So de-rating is the thing which will continue, but this market will become much more interesting for someone who wants to invest, because we will get opportunities when the stocks are available at some reasonable valuation and the risk returns are better. So I would say this market will be very interesting. On the whole, it will be also very volatile as the second half approaches. Election worries will start seeping into markets, and together it will give us good opportunity to acquire good stocks for the next 3 to 5 years perspective.
Hi, Amisha. Good afternoon. You know, the optimist in you is calling the market ahead interesting. A lot more people are calling it challenging, you know, given that we may not see the returns of the last 2 years. Therefore, should opportunities arise, where should investors actually be looking, you know, for those opportunities? What are the sectors of focus or of interest?
So, I would think that post GST, the rollout will be, of course, slow, the adoption will be gradual, but whatever happened post demonetization in terms of money flow getting channelized into the financial savings a bit, I think post GST, the unorganized to organized shift gradually will continue to pick up, which is still not happening in the desired proportions. But with this, I think, e-way bill, and more adoption, that will continue to happen. So some of the domestic consumption sectors where a lot of proportion of business is unorganized, and which is what is their competitive edge to the organized sector, there the shift will be happening in that sectors. For example, the home improvement sector, for example, which includes plywood, veneer, tiles, and etc., will be a very good sector for improvement. The other sector where government has been very, I think, silently working is to keep creating those little duty structures on import duty increase or anti-dumping duty and giving good support to domestic manufacturing. So I would focus on domestic manufacturing and auto and auto ancillary. In this order, I would remain focused.
Okay, all right, Amisha.
Okay.
All right, Amisha, you've given us good themes to play. Then you're saying the shift from unorganized to organized. You could play the entire ceramics, the tile space, etc. You're talking about domestic manufacturing as well. So, those all sectors are great. Two-part question I wanted to ask you. You were talking about earnings growth on the Nifty. What kind of an EPS growth are you all working with for the coming year? And also the second part I wanted to ask you is, what about PSU banking stocks? It should have been the best time for them. All these NCLT cases are going to get resolved. The timing of this entire PNB saga hasn't been great. Otherwise, everyone's done their bit. The NCLT resolution, you have seen, this banking recap as well that would have played out. This should have been the best time. Unfortunately, those stocks have lost 40-50% as well.
I agree. I think one is, of course, the PNB saga and how it just kills the sentiment that every time we think we are close to the the peak of the NPA cycle, it seems we are quite away from that, and there is no judgment for the analysts or investors as to how much more pain in terms of asset quality is in. So it becomes very challenging to value any business. Now the valuation goes to in terms of their franchise value, in terms of their branch distribution, and in terms of their deposit collection capabilities or CASA capabilities rather than asset quality. Maybe that level will be the one where investors will see that some bottom fishing can be done. But I would still say that there are certain more reforms which are required in PSU side in terms of management structure, which gives the management confidence to ride and lend again, because their ability, their sentiment of not lending is going to impact the whole economy also quite a lot. But keeping that aside, in terms of investments, I would say that because of this NCLT, etc., and one more quarter, we would see that post NCLT, the new bidder bidding, are there any litigations coming up, or the change in management is actually happening, how it is shaping up? That will give a little more confidence, and by then we will start looking at private sector banks a little more aggressively. Within that, ICICI and Axis are amongst our top picks for a corporate lender and a turnaround in their asset quality issues.
All right, Amisha, and just one final word then, because it's Women's Day, I want to ask you this question, for someone who's been at the helm of the financial market, we still don't see a lot of women participating in making their financial decisions. What's your advice to women investors out there? How can they get themselves more involved?
I think that women need to believe that as a trait, as a gender, we have a trait of being little conservative. Also, we always have a trait of being cautious about risk return. And the fact that if a savvy investor needs these two qualities essentially is the fact that women need to build confidence that they could be a much better investor than even men who's well networked, who's well aware, but is more aggressive and takes more risk in the financial market. Success depends on your ability to be conservative and cautious about your risk return. So I think women will make and do make a very good investor, and with that confidence, they should start their learning, investing and wealth creating experience.
Then some stability in the markets. The Nifty is moving higher. We're sitting higher with a gain of around 60 points. So good going there. Yes Bank, I remember the stock was down more than 5%. That's recovered a goodish bit from the low point of the day. The Nifty Bank, by the way, is now up close to around 150 points. So good going there. ITC as well as the stock that's moving mildly higher. So that's good news as well. Well, the next stock on our radar is Minda Industries. It's been one of the big outperforming stocks in the last couple of years. The stock, however, is down nearly around 11% in 2018 so far. But to understand what's going on in the business, we have Mr. Sudhir Jain, the Group CFO of the company, who joins us. Hi, Mr. Jain. Thanks so much, sir, for joining in. Well, there's plenty of talk, sir, in terms of BS6 in those, those norms being implemented. Are you seeing any kind of traction on ground? Are there some increased orders that are coming in there?
Yeah, first, yes, the BS6 norms have been introduced, and in certain cases it has been preponed, just like airbags, reverse parking systems, etc. will become compulsory from July 19.
Okay.
And this has resulted into additional traction as well as orders from the market.
Okay.
So all vehicle manufacturers for four-wheeler will comply with these BS6 norms.
Right.
And as you are aware, already in anticipation of BS6 norms, we had already invested into airbags as well as reverse parking systems.
Okay.
For reverse parking systems, we tied up with Headway joint venture, existing joint venture with TT Electronics of Taiwan.
Okay. And the realizations on this will be better on these products, because you're talking about, higher in terms of the value chain. So will it be better than what you get currently?
Yeah, it depends. We are into multi-product. We make about 20 different types of components,
right,
which goes into the vehicle, both four-wheeler, two-wheeler, three-wheeler,
okay,
and off-road.
Okay.
And yes, price points for airbags as well as reverse parking systems are better than some of our existing products.
So what's the, could you quantify the incremental demand on account of these BS6 orders?
Overall, as I've been sharing earlier also, top line is growing at the rate of 25% CAGR year after year. And half of this growth comes from our existing products, which is about 12.5%. Another 12.5% growth comes from new products which we are adding year after year.
Okay.
Particularly the products which we have added in last 2 to 3 years. And that basket also includes these BS6 two components, which is airbags as well as reverse parking systems with without camera.
Mr. Jain, you have been talking about localizing some products. In fact, that has increased the content per vehicle supplied. How rapid is premiumization in the auto industry? If you could give us a sense there, sir.
Yes, this is happening, and as the economy will improve, per capita income will improve, demand for higher-end vehicle is increasing, particularly in the big cities. One of the examples of premiumization could be that earlier, particularly cars used to come with steel wheels. And at one point of time, about 3 to 4 years ago, alloy wheels vehicle were about 10 to 12%. And 3 years ago, 5 years ago, we entered into alloy wheels. We set up our first plant in South, then in North, and in Bawal, and now we are setting up in Gujarat.
Okay.
Today, the penetration of alloy wheels is more than 20%, which is expected to go up to 30% in next 2 to 3 years. So this penetration of these components, alloy wheels to replace steel wheels, infotainment systems, addition of airbags, and reverse parking systems is increasing day by day.
Okay.
Partly because of regulation and partly because of increased per capita income and consumer moving from higher-end vehicles.
Mr. Jain, you know, in terms of your margins, over the last 2 years, we've actually seen your margins improve quite a bit. Where would you say you could sustain this?
Yes, in last 2 to 3 years, margins have improved again, partly because of better capacity utilization of the existing components, as well as addition of the new components.
Correct.
These new components are also having better margins.
Okay.
So as of now, our EBITDA is of the order of 11.5%. Internally, we are targeting about 12.5% EBITDA
Okay.
in coming 2 to 3 years.
All right, Mr. Jain, very quickly, if you could tell us, you're talking about capacity utilization levels going higher, right? So what is it at with the current gross block that you have? What kind of revenues can you do? Can you keep up this run rate of around 25%? And you've been doing some acquisitions, right? So what exactly is the, is your balance sheet looking like?
Okay, regarding capacity utilization, now we have got about 50 plants, 20 components. Weighted average capacity utilization would be about 85%. Now, within this 85%, some plants are working at 95, 96%, and some new plants which have recently been set up are at 75% capacity utilization.
Okay.
So there is a further scope for capacity utilization in these particularly new plants, which are at 75, 76%. Okay. Now, further production and further sale is going to come from expansions which we are making in Gujarat. Now, along with the Maruti and HMSI has already set up its plants. Now, our one plant, which is filters, is already set up, running, and we are supplying air filters, oil filters from that plant. Yeah. And Minda Kareku, which is into blow molding, alloy wheel plant, is also trial production going on. Similarly, switch plant is also under commissioning. So these new capacities which are coming up in Gujarat will further add to the existing capacity also, and of course top line also. Coming to the acquisitions, yes, few possible targets we are looking at, but they are at a very early stage and will take some time before we can share also, and we could be reasonably certain about them.
All right.